By now, you've almost certainly heard the confirmation of what a depraved, disgusting freak Stephen of Destiny is. But you might not have heard of the Ghislaine Maxwell to Destiny's Jeffrey Epstein. She's a woman that goes online as Not So Erudite, or Kyla. And when all of this started blowing up, she caught a lot of flack because there were texts that made it look like she was negotiating with one of Destiny's victims, kind of mediating between those two, trying to arrange a deal, a monetary deal. And so a lot of people were under the impression she's trying to help get some hush money going there, keep her quiet with some money. That's the impression that a lot of people got. She'll say that's not what's going on here in this interview, but that's why a lot of people really were not having it. And besides that, she's continued to stand by Destiny and said, oh, he's going to do better. Yeah, it was these things he did were bad, but everybody does bad things and he's going to do better. So she reached out to Turkey Tom because she thought he was one of the fair commentators, and he gave her an interview that may or may not make her look better in your eyes.
She personally said, "Hey, I saw a video where you said Destiny Erudite. I can understand how you came to that conclusion from the information that's available and the framing that's going on. If you're open to..."
I heard you said F me. Well, I can understand how you came to that conclusion. All right. I mean, you could try talking like a human.
Hearing me out, I'm down to talk to you about it in private. Also,
This is Erudite reaching out to him in the DMs.
I saw a video where you said Destiny Erudite. I can understand how you came to that conclusion from the information that's available and the framing that's going on. If you're open to hearing me out, I'm down to talk to you about it in private. I'm also comfortable with you recording it, using that for content. I like you, and I think you're one of the few unbiased and responsible commentary YouTubers. So I feel like you might be open to getting my side with extra context and information. So we're going to be doing that. No word from Big D, but this is, I guess, the best we're going to get for now. I think he said he wouldn't be talking about this stuff pending certain legal action. So we'll talk to her.
Yeah, I don't think you're getting the the Destiny interview now, Tom. I don't think anybody is.
About it. We'll see what she has to say. Maybe it'll be good. Maybe it'll be bad. Hello?
Hey, how's it going?
Doing all right. How are you?
It's been a day. Been a long day.
Oh, you want to see what this woman looks like? I should have shown that right away. I forgot. But she also co-hosts on the Bridges podcast that Destiny does.
If the truth is on your side, why lie? The Hawaiian people were screwed.
That's her. I mean, you probably could have guessed since you at least know it's a woman. I probably didn't need to say that, but that is her. Just to confirm.
Screwed over. Annexation shouldn't have happened. It's just a fact, right? So then why lie about, like, oh, the missionaries forced our Christianity on us, and why lie about that when the truth is fine?
Yeah.
Nobody called it the Bayonet Constitution until decades afterwards, and today we call it...
I mean, it's just going to talk about genocides and stuff. Probably it seems like that. It's the type of guy. This guy, he loves to talk about genocide. Can we get close up? There we go. Okay, geez. She's kind of going as a mime here, it looks like a little bit. But yep. There they are. Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell.
Yeah, just to let you know, I'm recording already, in case there was any question, just so it's totally clear. So yeah, what did you want to talk about the Steve stuff that's going on?
Yeah, I figured
The Steve stuff, huh? That's what we're calling it. Steve stuff.
I wanted to reach out to you, as I said, just because I think you're probably going to be the most fair, but it also seems like... So I'm only really going to speak probably to my side, and then if you have questions, I'll answer what I can. And I guess, like, the main thing for me is it's when people are looking at the texts that I'm sending back and forth with Pixie, they're getting like a very clip-chimped version of the exchange. Just so you are aware, I've talked to Pixie about an hour and let her know that I was talking to you just to get consent. So I asked her basically if I could give you DMs to basically be like, the way I'm getting painted here is like really, really far from the truth, and I don't really know why.
You look like Ghislaine Maxwell.
I know.
Yeah.
She just says, "I know" there. Like, I don't know. It should be like she'll say she's upset here, but I would think you'd be more upset. Like, and it's ridiculous, but she's just, I know, yeah, yeah.
You look like Ghislaine Maxwell.
I know.
Yeah.
And so I guess I'll maybe start with like the first. So I called Pixie, and she immediately was like, "I'm so
Right? Like, is that not an underwhelming reaction to that? I mean, I'm not expecting her to blow up at Tom or anything, but I would expect a little bit more resistance.
sorry." And just so it's clear, you can text her as well if you want, like on Discord, and confirm like everything you want with her. Like I'm not like she's totally fine with it. She mostly just feels really bad about this. So this was the text that she sent me today, just so you have an idea of like where I'm coming from, and that she is.
Okay, so you made Pixie feel even more bad now. You made her feel bad that people are mad at you, Erudite. Right? That's what she's saying here.
You can text her as well if you want, like on Discord, and confirm like everything you want with her. Like I'm not like she's totally fine with it. She mostly
Oh yeah, and so she asked Pixie, will you do some emotional labor and answer Tom's questions about this horrible situation that you're going through so that I can get less flack from the internet?
like everything you want with her. Like I'm not like she's totally fine with it. She mostly just feels really bad about this. So this was the text that she sent me today, just so you have an idea of like where I'm coming from, and that she is like agreeing. She knows that I'm sending you these texts. The only thing is that if there's receipts that you want to ask for, I'm happy to give them. I just want to make sure that I send them to her as well, because I feel like it's like the one thing that hasn't happened in this whole situation is like her consent being included. So
Yeah, it's her story, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, so I just want you to be clear that like I'm being very intentional about that, and if there's things that I don't answer, I apologize. There's just
so I can show this text you're sending.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Let me see here. So this says, let's see here. Hey, I'm still worried for you. Are you okay no matter what? Please never hesitate to reach out. She says, hi, Kyla. I'm sorry for not getting back to you earlier. I've just been really overwhelmed with the situation. I didn't consent to President Sunday receiving those messages at all. I feel like they painted both of us in a really bad and untrue light. I really appreciate that you care so much about me and have been checking on me so often, just asking if I'm okay. I don't think you'd go that far if you didn't care. I feel really guilty and bad because I didn't expect things to get leaked like this at all. Okay. So I guess you're just showing here that you guys are on good terms, basically. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yep. Well, I guess the biggest
friendship proof
question for me would be from the DMs, and I did prepare. I pulled up a bunch of them, so we can kind of, if you don't mind, we can go through them.
Yeah, that'll be perfect. I can kind of show you the context around the DMs that you have as well.
Okay, perfect. So the biggest thing for me is that it looks like you're essentially playing mediator for Destiny so that he doesn't have to directly talk to the alleged victim. It looks like that's what's happening here. You're playing mediator. You're trying to diminish consequences for him and diminish sort of culpability for him by not having him have to admit anything outright in a DM in regards to what happened in the situation. The situation being that it seems to be the case, at least, that he essentially got an explicit video of them together and then sent that to someone without her consent. To your knowledge, is that true? Did he do that?
So I'm also, just to be clear, I already told Destiny that this is what I was going to say to you as well. So everyone's just like fully considered, and I can again show you all the DMs of me letting him know that this was what I was going to be saying. When I confronted him in Miami in like early December, when I went down in person, because I wanted to talk to him in person, and I was like, what the fuck is this? And I asked him,
she said early December there.
That's what I was going to be saying. When I confronted him in Miami in like early December, when I went down in person, because I wanted to talk to him in person, and I was like, what the fuck is this? And I asked him, did she know you were recording, and did she consent to it? He said that she did know about the recording, like she's aware, she did consent to the actual filming of it, but he said specifically, probably not. Like it was 3 years ago, I don't remember specifically, and like things were open like this, but yeah, probably not. I didn't get like explicit consent. And I said, Stephen, that's really fucked up. Like that's not okay.
It would be like Destiny to say I didn't get explicit consent there. How would you get implicit consent to share somebody's tapes like that? That's the only way you would ever get that is if somebody explicitly said it to you. But he says that, so it's like he could, theoretically, oh, maybe it was a little bit of a gray area and he just misread it or whatever. Yeah, it wasn't explicit, but no, you didn't get permission. Just say no.
And so, just to be clear, he would say, I didn't completely say, but I read that very strongly as him acknowledging that he did not have consent to give it.
Right. Okay. I guess the biggest question from there would be, once you had that conversation with him, and that was, you said December of last
Early
year?
December. Yeah.
2024?
Yeah.
Okay. So you guys had
Yeah, that's what's crazy though, because this did leak into December, maybe a little bit earlier even. I don't remember exactly, but it was a story. People were like, "Oh, he hooked up with Nick Fuentes," but there's way more memey vibe to it at that time. People were mostly laughing, and it didn't start getting serious until I think it was Lonerbox. Lonerbox making it very clear he did not want anything to do with Destiny anymore on his stream. When somebody was like, a chatter was like, saying, "Oh, you can ask Destiny to help you with some slander stuff that you're dealing with or whatever." Excuse me. And he goes, "No, that's not going to be happening. Won't be doing that. No, thanks." He just looks very uncomfortable as the chat is talking to him about this. Oh, another chatter says that they make a great team, and he is not a fan of that comment either. Lonerbox does not want to be seen as a team member to Destiny. And so then people started looking at things a little bit more closely. Lonerbox is also dating Pixie. That's the woman that Tom and Erudite are talking about here that had her stuff leaked. Which of course there's multiple women, and men, but that this specific one here is dating Lonerbox.
had that conversation. How did things develop from there?
Yeah, so I was notified. So when the leaks happened, I was having like a community event. So I wasn't actually aware of the leaks until I think just like honestly, like a random person messaged me being like, "Have you seen this?" And I was like, "No." I still actually haven't looked at the leaks. I have like personally just a policy about never looking at like leaked nudes and stuff. But that's back. So this is back before I talked to Destiny or Pixie. That's when I reached out to Straight Away because I was hearing that it might be Pixie, and I figured if it was her, I was also
Draderade is another, not even really an orbiter. I don't think she does content. I'm pretty sure it's just some random woman that Destiny debated at a college campus or whatever. And I'm assuming she did well, or they hit it off and hooked up or something like that. But yeah, that's who they're talking about, Straighteraid or Aaron. And she's from my perception of hearing people talk about it, Pixie and Aaron or Straighteraid are pretty decently close friends.
hearing that she's saying it wasn't her. And so I was like, if it was or wasn't her, I don't really want to put her on the hot seat with like me talking to her and making her feel confronted. So I'm just going to like check and see, because to me, if he didn't even have consent to record the video, then this is a whole different ballgame. Like it's a whole different plan of action of like how I am going to process what's going on.
Right. But to your knowledge, he did
so-
have consent to record, just not to share it.
Yeah, or at least consent to have it. I don't know if he recorded it or she recorded it and sent it to him. I'm not actually familiar with like how the video was made. But yeah, it sounds like the consent, he had consent to have the nude in the sex tape, but not to send it out. That's what Aaron said to me. And I was like, okay, well, thank fuck he didn't record somebody without
Aaron
them
is
even knowing.
Straighteraid?
Yes, Aaron is
Okay.
Straighteraid, sorry.
Okay.
Sure, it would be worse if you were recorded without knowing, but if you're recorded and you know about it, but then you don't want it shared at all, and the other person shares it anyway. I mean, like, that's the way worse one, no? Because that actually impacts you more. Like if somebody just secretly records you and keeps it for themselves, yeah, that's super freaky and feels violating, and stay away from that person. Absolutely. But at least it's just that person, but not here. So I don't understand why she's acting like, if it had been recorded without her knowing, then that would be a whole different ball game. I think that's what she said. I mean, I don't really agree with that. I think either one of those is completely beyond the line.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. All right. So you
after
found
that,
that out. Sorry,
I texted Pixie. Yeah, so after that I texted Pixie. So for context, Pixie and I have been friends for like well over a year. Like we're not just two orbiters, but we worked in PV together. When I'm in Miami, I hang out with her all the time, independent of Steven. Like we have our own friendship. We've been good friends for at least a year.
That doesn't mean that you're not just orbiters, though, right? Nobody knows of you as anything besides destiny adjacent people. That's all you're known as.
Independent of Steven. Like we have our own friendship. We've been good friends for at least a year. So as soon as Erin confirmed to me what was going on, I was like, okay, now I feel comfortable like checking in with her and seeing how she's doing. Texted her and she basically like immediately told me like everything that was going on. And I was like, okay, holy shit. I believe let me just check because I don't want to give you wrong information. I believe we've called a bunch because I checked in on her a bunch as well.
No
it was
rush.
all over text. Yeah, it was not on Discord. It was all over text. Okay. So December 12th, I texted her and I was like, hey, she was like, hi. And I said, you want to chat or just have a friend? I'm really worried about you.
Yeah,
She
this
responds.
is once you found out about the stuff that was going on with the
Once I
videos of
found
her
out.
being public.
Steve stuff.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
So I reach out. I don't know. You don't probably need me to read everything, but basically she tells me that she's feeling a little bit suicidal, but she's not planning to kill herself immediately. And she's like trying to figure out like what to do about the situation. I respond, that tells me everything. I'm really sorry. I won't begin to tell you. I understand because I don't, but I do care. And I do want to see you safe and find peace. Do you mind if I ask to spend some time with you? She said, yes. We make a plan to meet up. And then we meet up December 13th. We're talking about the time. I send her a restaurant. We go against that one. Malua. Okay, Friday, December 13th.
I'm not sure what the point of sharing all of this part is. Although just to show, look how much I've been reaching out to Pixie.
There we go.
So
Friday,
you guys
December
met
13th.
up in real life and had a conversation about how to proceed?
Yeah, and how she's doing. Because at this point,
Had you talked
so
to...
Right, like couldn't you just skip to this part and then I texted Pixie, you know, said sorry about all this and we met up.
how to proceed?
yeah, and how she's doing. Because at this point,
Had you talked
So-
to Destiny, Steven,
No,
about this
I
stuff?
wanted- I had heard about it at this point, and he had basically like the only thing he had said is being like, "Hey, I'm worried about Pixie. Like, I think she's suicidal. Like, you should like if you want, you should probably check on her." And I was like,
He
"Okay, thank
told
you."
you that he was worried about her being suicidal.
Yes,
Okay, so
Yes,
you
but I
then
didn't-
go check up on her. You meet up in real life, and what?
yes, but I
what-
texted her beforehand.
And he says you should check on her. I mean, maybe he did, but there's kind of a couple things that are said in here where it makes it seem like Steven was not willing to reach out to her on his own at all, in which I could get the argument for, why you don't or whatever, but instead of doing this mediating stuff, I would think you could just do a literal one single text or whatever. Hey, 100% awful thing I did to you. I'm sorry. I will do anything within my abilities to make it up to you. And if you don't want me to text you anymore, I won't. Right? Like you could just do that instead of having the mediator.
Just to be clear, I'd already texted her about wanting to meet up and talk anyways, and
Yeah.
he just gave me the extra information. She's suicidal.
Okay. How did that
yeah,
conversation with her go?
It went honestly really, really well. I will say, so like part of when I went into it was I was trying to evaluate like how suicidal, how serious the risk was, and like where she was at, just because I don't know if you're familiar with my background, but I've obviously had a lot of experience with suicidal people. And so like the first goal for me was to be like, are you like an acute risk to yourself? Like what needs
She's some sort of therapist, counselor adjacent thing. I can't remember exactly what it is, but President Sunday said that she's not as cool and educated as she makes it seem like. So I don't know how true it is. They were talking about like distinctions between degrees and programs and stuff that I don't know anything about. But I think it's funnier to just go with President Sunday's narrative that she's trying to big up herself a lot, and she's basically like a camp counselor pretending to be a therapist.
to happen? If not, what can we do instead to kind of help you get out of like this place? In that conversation, basically, she kind of told me about how she's been suicidal like most of her life, how she's been struggling a lot. But the concerning part to me in that conversation, I guess, like what more specifically was,
And like this, do we need to know this part? Like, I don't understand why you're sharing stuff about Pixie unless we absolutely really need to know it for whatever you're trying to say to us. Like, would you not want to just give her as much privacy as you possibly could here?
pertinent was she was actively cutting off friends so that to prepare for suicide. So she was cutting off friends so that if she did and opted to kill herself, it would hurt them less. So at this point, she had broken up with a couple of friends and stopped responding, and a couple of friends were trying to hang out with her, and she wasn't responding to them. I don't think she probably wants any of the names of the friends leaked. At least she said, like, please don't give any of the names out. So you can check with her separately if she wants to give you names. But yeah, just different friends in Miami. Yeah.
Or just because why would we need to know their names? Just very weird, very weird asides that she keeps giving. Um, and also, I don't think I mentioned in this one, but Pixie, part of her like reputation or persona as a Destiny orbiter was, she was the one girl who had never hooked up with Destiny, and that was a thing she was vocal about. And then it obviously turns out not to be true with this, and so obviously you can criticize that being a lame thing to do if it's not true or whatever, but I think it undoubtedly would make this an even more horribly shameful experience. Like you'd feel even more awful because of that. It's just, I was thinking about it earlier. Like, man, it really, aside from being permanently maimed or injured in some way, this is like one of the worst things that could happen to you, genuinely.
That's fine. I believe that she was suicidal over having her news leaked. And before that point in time, that's fair. Okay, so
yeah. So importantly though, she had a stockpile of pills. So I asked her straight out. I was like, okay, so I need to know, like, do you have means? Like, how would you like if you're planning to do it? Do you have a plan? She's like, yes, probably pills. And I was like, do you have the pills right now? And she was like, yes, I do. And I was like, okay, that's pretty serious. So we continued talking, and basically I shifted into, like, I'm not gonna lie, like a side intervention conversation where basically you talk with your friend, you figure out how things are going on, you understand them, and you try to find things that they feel tether them to life, right? And so one thing that she really cared about is she does care about her friends. She doesn't want to hurt them. Another thing she cares about is she does want to see, like, some level of, like, justice for the situation. She thinks what he did was wrong. And to be clear, I agree with her. I've told Stephen that. I've told her that. Like, I've never minced words about being like, yeah, he did something really wrong here.
To be clear, going into that conversation, you didn't know that the video was shared unconsensually?
No, because Aaron had already told me, like, a week before. So I was already aware. Yeah. I wanted to talk to Pixie, and then I wanted to talk to Stephen to see how he would respond afterwards.
Okay. So during the conversation with Pixie, did she, because you talked about her suicidality, did you guys talk about other stuff in terms of, like, how she was feeling about it or her recourse? I mean, you said she wanted to seek justice. Was she thinking about a lawsuit at that point in time?
So we talked about a bunch of her options. She was like, she had looked into a lawsuit at that point. I don't know how much I can say about her lawsuit, but basically it wasn't something she wanted to consider for a couple of legal reasons that I probably would let her describe. But one reason I think can be fully public would be that she didn't want her name out there. I think she said that in DMs to Stephen as well.
Okay.
That got leaked today. So she was very worried about if she does a civil suit, her name will have to be publicly attached to the civil suit. And so she was like, I really don't want to consider a lawsuit. And I said, like, I guess I'll show you text as well where I reiterate this, but the entire time with Pixie, my entire approach has been, you get to steer the boat. Like, you get to decide how you want to respond, and you can decide that you don't want a lawsuit today, and you can change your mind.
Except for when you're feeling some heat and you want to go on Turkey Tom's show to try and convince people that you're a better person than they're saying you are. I could understand the impulse to do that or whatever. It's just the way easier thing to do would just be not stand by Destiny, and then just take a little bit of heat for your friend who's already taken a ton.
Mind a week from now, and all of that's okay. Like, all of that's okay.
Okay.
We talked about how she could maybe talk to him, like, privately, but she was really nervous too. So this is where she basically was like, I can't remember if she brought it up first or I, but basically her being like maybe you can see what he'd be willing to do, like, for me. She was like, I feel like you really, really understand emotionally where I'm coming from. I did a lot of, like, paraphrasing of, like, it seems like your biggest concern right now is, like, justice because you feel like you've been wronged and there's no direction for you to correct the situation. and you've been betrayed by your friend in like a pretty major way, and there's nothing for you to do that doesn't kind of publicly implicate you, and so you want to work with him privately to find a better resolution that you feel at peace with. She's like, yes, that's exactly what I want. I want to know that he's not going to do this again, right? That was her orientation in the conversation. So we talked about a couple of strategies about how.
This part is a little bit weird. Like, I can understand this being Pixie's sentiment, but the fact that Erudite is bringing up this very specific thing, saying that, yeah, and before talking to Destiny, I had a conversation with Pixie where she said, I love how perfectly you understand how I feel about this. And then
you get to decide how you want to respond, and you can decide that you don't want a lawsuit today, and you can change your mind a week from now, and all of that's okay. Like, all of that's okay.
Okay.
We talked about how she could maybe talk to him like privately, but she was really nervous to. So this is where she basically was like, I can't remember if she brought it up first or I, but basically her being like maybe you can see what he'd be willing to do like for me. She was like, I feel like you really, really understand emotionally where I'm coming from. I did a lot of like
at this part, I feel like you really, really understand where I'm at emotionally.
like for
And I don't remember if it was Pixie or I that brought it up, or nobody.
me. She was like, I feel like you really, really understand emotionally where I'm coming from. I did a lot of like paraphrasing of like, it seems like your biggest concern right now is like justice, because you feel like you've been wronged and there's no direction for you to correct the situation, and you've been betrayed by your friend in like a pretty major way, and there's nothing for you to do that doesn't kind of publicly implicate you, and so you want to work with him privately to find a better resolution that you feel at peace with. She's like, yes, that's exactly what I want. I want to know that he's not going to do this again, right? That was
Yeah, you totally understand me so well, Erudite, and how I want to do this all only privately, and I just want justice. Okay.
that was her orientation in the conversation. So we talked about a couple of strategies about how she could do that. I was like, you could message him. You could go through like other people to message him. You could go through a civil lawsuit.
Just hang on to that. I don't know if I mentioned, but hang on to her setting this up. Because that's what I think it is that she's setting something up for later on by saying that Pixie said this to her about being so understanding of just wanting quiet, private justice.
You can take 5 days and just like think about it. Like, you don't have to decide right now, but just like let me know what you'd like. And that's when she was like, yeah, I think I'd really appreciate if you just like told him where I'm at, communicate like emotionally. She's like, I feel like when I communicate with him, like he's not understanding it. I don't feel really understood. And I feel like you do understand me. And I said, okay, yeah, I'm happy to communicate how you're feeling to him.
Okay. So
And again, Erudite, you just really understand me so much.
then from there, you go and talk to him, at which point you already know from based on what Straighter Eight said that it seemed like it was shared unconsensually. What did he say?
I think she confirmed that. So Pixie also confirmed that when we met.
Okay. All right.
And
So
that's when he said to me, so when I confronted him, I said, did she agree to it? And he said, probably not. It was like 3 years ago, so I don't remember exactly. And I didn't think it would be a big deal, but yeah, probably not. So I took that as him saying no. To be clear, he never said.
I didn't think it would be such a big deal. What? Just because you've normalized it, there's no way you actually believe everybody else or anybody else except for a very select few would be okay with that. Just be so casual. But oh yeah, share it or don't. I don't care. Because again, I don't think Pixie's really like a content creator. She's mostly just a normal person who watched Destiny. I think. I could be wrong about that.
To me, I guess, explicitly no, which is probably something that he might take contention with. I'm not sure.
Okay. All right. So you guys have that conversation. So at that point, Pixie wants some kind of justice, doesn't want her name out there. Obviously what Steve's position is. Where does it go from there? From here, you kind of start mediating conversations between them and what he wants versus what she wants.
Well, at first I basically go like a big part of this was, okay, he said to me, like in my recollection and my perception of the conversation, it felt like he was saying like more or less like, I mean, yeah. And I was like, what are you doing? Like, this is a big fuck up. Like,
did he recognize how bad it was?
Yes. He's like, I know. And I was like, it's really bad. And he's like, I know.
I'm sorry, there's no way he recognized how bad it was because it's a thing he did over and over and over again. And He's just stayed quiet about it, not willing to address it. And so just conveniently, as soon as it blows up, now he instantly understands how bad it is and how he's so regretful and understands the full implications of his actions. No, no. So wait, he just in the last month or two he figured it out? What nonsense.
And he was like, he's like, okay, I don't know. I think publicly he hasn't said what he's doing like legally behind the scenes. So I like literally can't tell you that, but he told me a number of things just because like I don't want to get caught up in a lot of the lawsuits in part. And secondly, I think if some of the things get public, it could like implicate part of what's trying to be done from both sides, I think, as far as like investigation and stuff. So he basically like told me what he was doing behind the scenes as far as like what to do. And then he also, I was like sitting there being like, okay, but like, what did you say? Like when she first approached you, I was like pushing him and he was like, fuck, like, I don't know. He's like, if you want, you can just read our entire DMs. Like I can show you our entire DMs of like what I said to her so that you know like how I responded. And I was like, to be honest, I would appreciate that. So
are these the same DMs that already got leaked or is this a different conversation?
Fuck, I would need to look. I think almost all of the exact ones that got leaked, except rather than it being like clipped up into little images, it would be like the entire thing, and like their whole conversation, which has lots of extras in it, but more or less I think what's been leaked.
Okay. And what was your impression of that conversation once you read that?
Basically, I read that as, okay, so he knows that he's done wrong. And when she brings it to him, the first thing that he does is basically say, I'm really sorry. Like there's no excuse, right? So I'm like, okay, I'm glad that at least like when she's talking to him, he's like fully acknowledging like he fucked up here. Him and I.
Wow, that's really great of Destiny. When he, low-key ruined this person's life, the first thing he said was, I'm sorry. Wow. Truly an emotionally mature man. Really, he should be commended for that. Thank you, Kyla.
I read through some of the plan. I think some of the plan is probably excluded, like what he's doing, like behind the scenes and legally. And he also talked to me about the money offer, and I was like, why did you offer her money? And he was like, well, he's like, I know it looks scummy, but I also know she's like applying for LSAT, so I just figured like it's not much, but it's something I can do to help because like she's fucked, like she got fucked over. She did nothing wrong.
Doesn't that kind of read as like him offering her money for some benefit in exchange for her silence?
To be honest, I really didn't read it that way, particularly because it's like caveated with like, I know that this looks scummy, especially now that I have full context, I realize the idea actually came from Aaron. And then
Yeah, he couldn't have bad intentions because he acknowledged the fact that, hey, this could look like I have bad intentions. Oh, he must be a good guy then.
he suggested to her like, I believe within an hour, if I'm looking at the times correctly, like he immediately suggested it to her. So it's coming from somebody now I realize even that was in his mind talking to her and communicating like what she wanted. And my understanding as well is that was something that is probably the right thing to do. Like he should probably, if she's like doesn't want to go public or anything, and because of that she can't like sue him. If he's remorseful and like wants to take accountability for his actions, he should like probably pay for therapy and like probably her living for a while to like help her out. Basically, like that seemed like alongside the other stuff that he was doing, to be honest, like the right response. If I'm being honest.
I mean, I guess the concern for me is like, Pixie, I mean, in her own statement, she said that there's, I think she said 3 people total, her and 2 other people that he seemingly done this to. And I mean, obviously it's.
That seems low to me. I would imagine that number is much higher than 2 to 3.
It's her decision whether or not it goes public, but, the problem with it maybe not going public at some point is, he doesn't face actual repercussions for his actions, which is like public scrutiny, right? Because if he gets in his head, he can just pay his way out of these situations. And to be clear, he has enough money to do that. He can pay for her law school and still be okay. It's like, what incentive is there for him to not do it again in the future if he thinks he might be able to get away with it?
Yeah, this is why when I talked to Pixie, I told her like if you want to sue him, I like support you in doing that. I've never said anything different with her. I think that's like fully within her right. I just know for her, I guess.
Again, and I haven't even tried to stop my friend from suing the person who non-consensually leaked her tapes. Oh wow. Oh, way to give yourself credit for that, Erudite. You really deserve credit for that.
I told her like if you want to sue him, I like support you in doing that. I've never said anything different with her.
If you want to sue him, I support you. Wow, I bet she felt so great after that, where you told her, I'm not even gonna try to stop you. from taking your legal right to go after this guy.
I think that's like fully within her right. I just know for her, I guess to be specific, she explicitly told me that if this stuff became more public, that was the thing that made her want to kill herself. She was terrified of like family finding out. She was terrified of like friends and stuff finding out and like seeing this content. And she was like, that was the thing like driving her suicidality was the publicity of it, which is why she didn't want to go to like civil court, right? So then I'm like, what's if the publicity part is attached to the suit, which she said she talked to lawyers, I just believed her. It sounds like that's also correct. Then it's like, what's the next best thing for her? Because I think that she deserves something. But
So
she
what was your
she gets to drive that.
What was your kind of goal throughout all of this? Because obviously it puts you in a very awkward position where on one hand you're trying to help out your friend, but at the same time, I mean, you're I don't know if you're employed by Destiny, but you work with him. Obviously,
We
he's helping
co-own a
you out a
business
lot.
together.
Yeah, right. So like what kind of position
Co-own a business. So definitely has a motive to stick with Destiny there. She lived in Canada until very recently, but just moved down to Miami to do the Bridges podcast. That's the business that they co-own together. And she just did this recently, like within the last few months. Like I think a year ago actually is when she initially moved, something like that.
are you in at that point? Like, how are you feeling? Are you thinking like, can I continue working?
Oh yeah, and they lived in a house that had horrible termites for like 6 months, something like that. And supposedly, I don't know how true this is. Supposedly, it's a type of termite where you can't do anything to kill them unless you completely evacuate and fumigate the house or something like that. And they didn't have somewhere else to go, so they just had to live in this place with termites constantly, and all they could do was sort of keep them at bay. And every morning she would wake up and there would be termite poop all over her desk.
Working with this guy if he's doing this kind of stuff?
Mhm.
Are you thinking of cutting him off? Like, what kind of position is that putting you in?
I mean,
Which, to be fair, termite poop, it's basically just wood shavings. Which maybe that sounds a little bit, but it's still it went through bug intestines. I don't know if they have intestines, but it went through a bug's system.
before I sent the message to Aaron, I was talking to my husband, like to Nick, and I was like, if he recorded somebody without their knowledge and sent it out, like I don't think I can, like I don't know what to do. I don't think I can work with. That's a line I can't. I don't fuck with that shit. Like that's insane.
Listen to how hard it is for her to just take a hard stance against
Talking
this.
to my husband, like to Nick, and I was like, if he recorded somebody without their knowledge and sent it out, like I don't think I can, like I don't know what to do. I don't think I can work with. Like that's a line I can't. I don't fuck with that shit. Like that's insane.
Oh yeah, she tries to say something like 4 or 5 different times, and then what she arrives on is, I don't mess with that. I don't mess with secretly recording people and non-consensually releasing the tapes. Wow, really? Okay, okay. Yeah, really, I don't F with taking the life of innocent people, all right? I don't want to like make a real hard stance against it and offend any of the murderers, but generally speak, like how is it that hard to take a stance here, Erudite?
And I was talking to my husband, like to Nick, and I was like, if he recorded somebody without their knowledge and sent it out, like I don't think I can, like I don't know what to do. I don't think I can work with. Like that's a line I can't. I don't fuck with that shit. Like that's insane.
Like 3 or 4 times there, she said she approached something where I don't know if I can work with someone who does that, or something along those. But no, every time she stops short and then just says, "I can't mess with that." That's insane.
And it sounds like, I know recently, like Cherry has made some statements. Just to be clear, I don't know anything about those leaks, and so like I don't know. I need to figure out what's going on with those additional leaks, because like a pretty hard line for me is like if somebody,
I believe with Cherries, as another orbiter friend of these people, and I think with hers, she didn't know she was being recorded, and I think it's just audio, but she was engaging amorously with Steven, and he was recording it like in his pocket or something, just the audio. And some other person who was a friend of Cherry heard that audio and reached out to Cherry because they thought it sounded like her. And so that's how she found out that she was recorded without her knowledge, and then it was leaked. And she's going straight to the law route. She said she went to the cops and filed a report, or whatever it is, to get the legal thing going.
Yeah, if somebody does according to somebody else, that's a pretty hard line for me.
Right. Well, even outside of the recording, I mean, the question of whether or not the recording was consented to, the spreading around certainly wasn't, from your perspective. Is that enough to draw a line, or no?
So it's not for me. The issue is that what was a line for me before, I was like, okay, if she did consent to the recording but not to the spreading around, which I'm assuming that she hadn't, then I said, what matters to me is like how he responds. Is he trying to fix it? Is he being remorseful? Is he like reaching out to her to like find some level of solution?
And that was a crazy one. It matters how they respond to it. I don't know, not to me. That's not one of those ones where it matters how they respond. You can't cross that line, right? It just seems so obvious. Like, I feel like an idiot even saying it, but yeah, actually, I'm against people who release people's tapes non-consensually. Because Erudite somehow has the hardest time ever saying that.
If that's like his initial response, that to me is a lot more meaningful. Because it's like,
I guess my question would be like, why do you draw a line there? Like, it's not like he slipped on a banana peel, like he was in one of his goon sessions and he decided to send a video to some random Discord e-girl of Pixie engaging with him. Like, obviously he had to have known that, whether or not he was the one to leak it to the public, he had to have known that he's running the risk of that video being publicized when he's sending a video of, him and another person sexually interacting to someone random that he met on Discord, or even someone he may have trusted, right? Like, if Pixie didn't consent, he had to have known he ran the risk of that being publicized in some way, considering how much public scrutiny there is around Destiny, and frankly, how many people would love to have a video of him engaging in that, as we've seen from the Twitter stuff, right? Like, is that not something he should have been pretty, I don't know, forward thinking about?
Yeah, I agree that like the issue is like, it's not that I'm not saying it wasn't a fuck up. Like, I agree that it was a fuck up, and I think it was a massive betrayal of trust. Just to me, like, recording somebody and then without their knowledge and leaking it is like a full on, like, it's a pretty like sexually invasive crime. Leaking somebody's nudes, I think, is also really bad. To be clear, I think it is really bad. But the issue is that I think it's fundamentally just a more common issue that people do. It's definitely, in my experience, not the first time that somebody has like leaked nudes. I think it's really bad. I think it's not okay. Like, when you hear about like guys like showing other guys like tits that some girls shan't, like, I think it's gross, and there's a reason I don't look at it.
I mean that's
That's like 1-to-1. Yeah, sure. It is just as lame of them as it is of Destiny. Like, but the impact is so much different, right? Like, Pixie said the worst part of this is she does not want her family to know. That's why she wasn't sure about going the legal route, because then her name's out there and her family's gonna find out.
I agree, it's less severe, but
So
this
that's why.
isn't
That's why
a
the
bunch
line's
of a bunch of high schoolers, right? This is a 35-year-old guy who's doing this.
Sure, but the law and morals are different, right? In the case of like recording somebody against their consent and then releasing it against their consent is a totally different action to me than like having it sent to them and then thinking it would stay private because they're sending it to somebody else and giving it to somebody else, which they shouldn't have done. Like, these are just, the intention and everything behind it is a lot different to me.
So is your concern entirely the legality versus the morality? Like, is the morality not really a big question for you?
No, I think morality is a really big question. But I'm saying that basically, to some degree, I suppose I'm saying I agree with the law here. I agree with the law drawing a line here saying like this is a even more severe action. Both are really bad. The issue is that one of them is like criminologically bad and the other one is like, you're a fucking piece of shit.
Okay. So you were okay with working with it?
In my opinion, they're both that. They're both just, okay, you're garbage. It's again, I feel stupid saying it, but that just seems so obvious to me that you write a person off if they do either of those.
With the piece of shit, to be clear.
I was willing to work with somebody who fucked up and then also showed remorse and was like willing to try to help the person that he fucked over and correct it. Yes.
Okay. All
right. That is such a low standard. It's such an absurdly low standard.
Okay. So you were okay with working with a piece of shit, to be clear.
I was willing to work with somebody who fucked up and then also showed remorse and was like willing to try to help the person that he fucked over and correct it. Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, I guess moving on from that.
I think Tom kind of just checked out there. He's like, "Oh, okay, you're lost, Erda. You're entirely compromised." Kind of looked like he rolled his eyes at one point there too.
Interaction. So where did the kind of conversation go from there once you had gotten his side and gotten her side? You at that point, a lot of the DMs seem to be you kind of mediating, talking to her about what she wants versus what Steven is willing to provide and do. What was your kind of perspective on those interactions before we get into the specific stuff? I guess just overarchingly, what was your goal there?
Sorry, I think I'm not understanding your question. Could you just rephrase it?
I guess okay. What was your goal past that point? Once you found out what he had apparently done, and you seemingly got confirmation. Once you found out how her feelings were on it, what was your goal past that point? Was it just to help Pixie out? Was it to protect Destiny from the allegations?
No. So like this is the biggest frustration. I don't know if you've seen the Fairy Queen.
No, I wasn't trying to protect Destiny. I would never protect Destiny, except for every other day of my life up until today. But I'm done. I'm not doing it now, and I never was.
Leaks or whatever. I don't know why people keep saying this. They keep saying that I asked her to delete the comment, but you can just read my message. I explicitly tell her I'm messaging her because I don't want her to remove the comment. I want her to remove the identifying piece where she talks about like friends, because I don't want anything that could narrow it to Pixie, because the main thing that Pixie has said to me over and over is that
Yeah, she's talking about the comment that somebody left that mentioned it was friends involved. Like it very vaguely implied that Pixie was in the category of person that this commenter could be talking about. Eh, and then Erudite messages them and says, "Hey, can you remove this part of your comment? Make it even more generic than it is, even though it's very generic now and doesn't implicate any specific person." And now Erudite's saying, "Oh, I didn't ask her to take it down. I didn't ask her to take I just wanted her to remove that part of the comment." Right. You did that at that time to have plausible deniability, right? Because you're gonna message somebody and they're gonna, oh yeah, let me go back and edit that comment. I'm just okay. If it's a big deal, I'm just gonna delete it. I don't want to deal with it. I'm not gonna go back and edit it. All right. Oh, it's a problem. I'm either doing nothing or deleting it. But Erudite says, "No, just remove part of the comment. Just edit it so that later on she has this plausible deniability." So no, I didn't want them to delete it. I was only trying to protect people by just having a part of that comment removed.
the publicity piece. So the only thing that I have cared about, by and large, has been following what Pixie feels that she needs in that moment, right? Listening to like what she's asking for. There are certain things it's possible that she could ask me to do where I'd be like, I'm not comfortable facilitating this, right? But saying something like, please don't make my name public, please don't address it publicly, and please like try to keep it as quiet as possible. 110% I'm going to do that, like no question.
So
And
you say
if
the
you look at
Fairy
the Fairy
Queen
Queen
leaks, do you mean is this message, right? Let me just to confirm with you.
Yes. So if you
Okay.
read, I get that you're mad, that's fair. Your comment is kind of confirming that it's them, which they're denying and drawing more attention to their. I'd really appreciate if you considered removing that part of your comment, right? Just that part. And there's a reason that I didn't just delete it immediately, because I'm fine with the discussion of it. I'm fine with people like talking about whether Destiny's a piece of shit. I think all of that is really valid. But what's not valid is like making Pixie's plight worse. That's not valid. And like until she decides that she wants to go public, I'm not taking that from her.
Right. So here, Fairy Queen asks, they say, do you acknowledge that Melina is claiming Steven shared these videos without her consent? Have you confronted Steven about this? Will you dissociate from him for sharing another woman's sex tapes without her consent? You said, gotcha, I'm not an extension of Steven, you're not a feminist, and you blocked her. What, were you blocking her because it seemed like she wasn't going to edit her comment, or because you didn't want to answer these questions publicly? Like, what was the concern here, I guess?
It basically seems like, so Fairy Queen and I have a history, just to be clear. A really weird history, where she constantly is accusing me of things and then coming to me behind the scenes to like help with suicidality or certain things. And the reality is that if somebody's life is at risk and they need help, I'm just going to give it. I'm always going to give it. And so Fairy Queen at this point and I had two separate
And tell Turkey Tom and his millions of fans about it too.
interactions where she had come to me because somebody she knew or a friend of hers was suicidal and she was looking for like steps about how to handle it. And I helped her every single time. One of the times was also a mutual friend, like Xena. All that stuff is very, very public. I did a lot of the similar stuff with Xena. I met up with her. I think with Xena, I actually spent a night at her house just to like keep her safe when she was really distressed. Xena, I also did like multiple safety calls for her where like I reported like as she was attempting like to the police and stuff like that. So Fairy Queen has this weird dynamic where she keeps coming to me for.
Wait, did she say she reported Xena to the police? when she was, so she got her 5150?
Zena, I also did like multiple safety calls for her, where like I reported like as she was attempting like to the police and stuff like that.
Reported as she was attempting to the police. I mean, I get sometimes you got to do that, but there's no family or friends, anything. It had to be the police there. I mean, I don't think that that usually goes well for people.
So Fairy Queen has this weird dynamic where she keeps coming to me for help with stuff, which I'm always willing to, but then she'll also be like, "But why are you such a piece of shit? Why are you friends with Destiny? He's
Wait, okay, and she put all that in there about other friends wanting to end it all and how helpful she was to them, just to say, "Oh, I'm such a good person. I love to help people." When in this interaction, when you see you're trying to control this person and how they talk when they're saying nothing that implicated any specific person, and then they ask you very, very reasonable questions, and you say, "Gotcha. I'm not an extension of Steve." It's funny that you say "gotcha." I'm not an extension of Steve because that's that's like a meme that he always says. Like somebody will pour their hearts out or say something that they feel very passionate about, and he'll go, "Gotcha, gotcha." And that's what she's doing here. Gotcha. I'm not an extension of Steven. She might as well say anything else.
a horrible person.
But yeah, she's such a nice person who helps all of the sad people in the world.
But then she'll also be like, "But why are you such a piece of shit? Why are you friends with Destiny? He's a horrible person." And I'm just like, look, like if somebody needs help, I'm always willing to. There's lots of things I disagree with Steven about. But yes, I'm still willing to work with him. So that's part of what's driving this. When she like sent all those questions, I was like, oh, so every time she said like one thing that she really
I think her sticking by him really begs the question, what would he have to do that you would end the relationship? You say, ostensibly, that if he secretly recorded people and released it non-consensually, then maybe it would be too much. You kind of maybe imply that that would be the case. I don't know if I believe that. Like, it really it seems like it would have to be murder or something for her to drop him as a friend. It's just bizarre that, oh well, he wants to do better. Okay.
cares about is women. I don't know if I believe her because it seems like she's willing to hurt
I believe
Pixie
you, Erudite.
to like get at Steven. And I'm not interested. And at that point I blocked her and deleted the comment.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Well, with that out of the way, I think the thing I wanted to go over next would be all the text messages between you and Pixie that got leaked. Now, before we get into that, I guess my question would be from you. Do you know the way that these text messages, it looks like iMessage, do you know the way these texts got leaked? How did this end up getting out? Who was this sent to that ended up sending it to someone that ended up getting it publicly? What was the chain of events here?
It sounds like Pixie sent it to Aaron, trying to like basically like this is what Kyla's saying. Pixie and I have talked. She's also willing. Her and Aaron aren't talking anymore. But she is willing to like if need be. Obviously, she wants to be as publicly implicated as possible. So if you need it, you can probably reach out. But also, I don't have it because I didn't ask for it. But basically, she was constantly telling Aaron like, "What do you think about this? This is what Kyla's suggesting." And Aaron was saying like, "I think she's being sneaky," and Pixie was being like, "I don't think she's being sneaky." So I think the only text she has is because those are the specific screenshots that Pixie sent to Aaron. I'm not 100% confident. From my understanding, Aaron directly leaked them to Sunday. I think Beckett of Crabs or whatever, he covers all the weeks on stream. It sounds like Sunday got.
Beckett is cope and seethe. His video is not as big as President Sunday's video about it, but I think I've heard a couple other people say that it's a better video than Sunday's, and I would probably agree with it too. Sunday is way more like flamboyant and trying to paint a broader narrative that fits with the way he sees the world and stuff. But Beckett of Cope and Seed, he goes through it more plainly, just straight.
Them directly from her. I don't know how Beckett got them. I think some people are saying it. I think it might have been through Smugbug because Aaron's good friends with Smugbug. I don't know though. I have no idea how Beckett got the DMs, and I don't know if Nicholas got it from Beckett or from Sunday or like.
Okay, Smugbug. I don't know who Smugbug is, but I'm almost positive I've heard Chud Logic rage at Smugbug.
What the transaction is after that, I have no idea.
Okay. And I haven't seen Pixie directly talk about Sunday or I guess maybe Bad Empanada is someone that people are talking about right now. But I saw her, just let me find her tweet real quick. In her thread, she had said something to the effect of, let me see here, I've got it. Okay, so she said, if you're a leftist who has talked about the situation without so much as contacting me, you owe me an apology. On top of being a victim of revenge, I now have to deal with people lying about my dating life and further dehumanization of me. I know I shouldn't elaborate more, but I think one of the worst parts of what's happened is learning how so many people I genuinely thought were my friends are so easily willing to betray me. I don't understand what I've done to them to make them want to treat me like this. So do you know who she's talking about here, or is she not willing to?
I'm speculating it's Erin. I didn't ask her specifically. I would speculate Erin. I know she's feeling, she basically, I called her tonight and she was like, Kyla, I'm so sorry. And I was like, are you okay? And she was like, Erin backstabbed me. Like Erin backstabbed me. So I'm assuming it's Erin. And Erin is a leftist, but I genuinely have no idea. I would assume though.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, do you want to get into the text?
Sure. I think it's probably worth saying, because I think people are like, the biggest question people have is like, why I'm sticking around Destiny. And so I just want to like answer that question, I think, a little bit more extensively, which is A, if something else comes out about the leaks, which is like more pernicious or criminal, I realize like I probably won't, but I don't engage with friendships.
Not convenient. If there's anything that's worse, I probably won't stick around. But okay, so very convenient. So you won't even say a hard no if things that are worse come out.
In the way that it feels like people are kind of expecting me to, maybe in the public. I'm really staunch about like rehabilitation and like journeys and processes, which means that like if I have a friend who's done a bad thing, they're not like dead to me. I'm not just going to drop them immediately. I'm going to confront them, usually in a way that I think is most productive, particularly if they've done something that I think not just violates like my values, but their own values. This isn't the first time I've confronted Stephen on different things. It's just the biggest thing that I've confronted him on. But there's been multiple times, like even in this like cutie Cinderella drama, where he started like making fun of her. I was like, why are you doing this? Like, this isn't your values. Like, this is something you don't believe in. And he's like, yeah, you're right. Right. So I think if everyone just disowns people immediately for wrongdoing, like nothing works.
I don't know for sure what cutie Cinderella drama she's talking about. I'm assuming that's the drama where you remember when H3 was watching cutie Cinderella crying about the AI fake prawn that was made of a bunch of streamers like Pokimane and Cutie Cinderella, Frogan, probably not Frogan, but in Atrioc, one of Ludwig's friends was streaming and he alt-tabbed, and you could see that one of the windows he had this AI prawn site open, and it was, I don't think QT Cinderella was even pictured or actually mentioned, but she was just also included on that website. And so she was crying. She said something along the lines of, "This is what pain looks like," or "This is what suffers looks like," something like that. And H3 and his crew played some like sad song in the background, and Ethan started cracking up laughing at it. And he got a death stare from one of the crew members. But I'm assuming that's what they're talking about here. That's what Steven was making fun of, Cutie Cinderella. So all the things you could bring up, that's the one thing you confronted him on, that he laughed at Cutie Cinderella for being very overwrought, right? Like I get being upset and uncomfortable with that happening, but it was absurd to make yourself out to be such a victim because someone slapped an AI version of your face on some other random prawn video, right? Like it was way too much. So I gotta be honest, I don't begrudge anybody too much for making fun of that. And if that you're saying that's the one thing that you confronted him on, but this you stand by him when this goes on, like what? That makes no sense.
I have like my entire dream is to like work with high risk, like my entire career previous to this was working with like drug addicts and juvenile delinquents, like people who've done really, really fucking bad shit. And so I don't know. I understand why people may be confused because maybe they don't feel similar, and I don't put this on anybody else. Like nobody else has to orient themselves towards Stephen or anyone else who's done something wrong like I do. But basically, the moment that I saw like remorsefulness, accountability, and like a step-by-step plan of like how he was going to correct the issue, that's when I was like, okay, I can still work with this person, because it's like the try and the accountability that matters to me, not just like the actions alone.
So I think that, that's somewhat understandable from, a friendship perspective. I think that the thing that people are going to bring up, though, is that you guys aren't just friends, you're business partners, and he's not just any business partner. He is, a massive liberal commentator who's constantly making moral judgments about other people's actions and behaviors. Meanwhile, he's got this going on. I mean, I think a big part of it is like, I think this really calls into question, like if he even has a right to criticize other people's character and morals, when, I mean, it's one thing to be, to have everything else that he's done before, which, there's a lot, let's be honest, there's a lot, but I think this rivals all of that, definitely, in terms of severity. And it calls into question, his respect for other people's consent to, their own news being leaked. It's like, now how can anyone possibly feel bad for him for getting his news leaked when he was doing that to someone else? There's a lot of questions around this. And I mean, even on.
And he's proven himself to be completely reckless with that stuff. Like, there's no way for his own picks to not get leaked with the way he just willy-nilly spreads this stuff around to anybody who will text him back.
On top of that, I mean, he's trying to be a serious political activist and commentator, and he's running around messing around with all these Discord girls, sending. And I mean, this is not, to be clear, Pixie's not the only person who's been affected by this. I mean, there's been Lauren, obviously, in a different way, but he was sending messages not too long ago that they had shared together, seemingly in confidence, that ended up getting leaked. There's Melina's allegation, obviously, his ex-wife, who he kind of painted as like a absolute crazy person. And there's this going on, so it's like,
there's a clip of him recently. He's saying she won't come out with anything. Melina won't come out with any information about me because she's a demonic. I think he did call her a demonic bee, and which is just so childish. As a 30-something-year-old, really, how did you end up marrying the person if they were demonic? You idiot. But he says she won't come out with anything because I have so much dirt on her, and my reputation's already in the sewer, so I could just nuke us both, and it wouldn't really matter to me, but it would take her down. Like, the dude is just such a psycho.
It kind of calls into question. I mean, even people are saying like, "Oh, Mr. Girl was right." It calls into question his entire history in a way. I mean,
A lot of people got to fill out their Mr. Girl apology forms.
It's it's not just a question of you and him are just buddies, right? You're business partners. He's a public figure. He's a public commentator where he talks about other people's actions. Like, do you think that's a huge concern?
Yeah, but the issue, it just is no longer like, the issue is like, this isn't a moral concern. This is now like business advice. Like if anyone said, do you think it's bad business strat? Probably to some degree, I suppose. Like it's probably better that I diversify and like look elsewhere because he is a brand risk. The issue is that like Steven does bad things. Steven was a piece.
It's better that I diversify. So she's saying, well, I want to build the monkey branch. I don't want to just quit and have to go somewhere else. I'm going to try to form some other connections and monkey branch somewhere else. It would be a little bit too costly for me to say, I don't want anything to do with this guy right now.
Piece of shit. He was negligent in this situation, right? He wasn't trying to hurt anyone, but he should have known better.
Okay, no, he was not negligent. He was completely reckless and had zero regard or respect for other people and their privacy.
It's a brand risk. The issue is that like Steven does bad things. Steven was a piece of shit. He was negligent in this situation, right? He wasn't trying to hurt anyone, but he should have known better, and he does know better. And actions have consequences. And the reality is like I wanted to see this resolved in a better way for everyone, right? That's obviously like what I wanted. But when I was thinking about essentially like how I want to manage friendship versus business, I basically decided that when it comes to like business and friendship, there are certain things that I have to draw the line on because I want to run like a treatment center in the future. And I like, even friendships can't come before that, because that's why I'm in social media, is to like gain the money and the network necessary to fund that without having to rely on like churches, basically. But I also decided that I want to act with my friends in the streaming world the way that I would act if the public eye wasn't like looking at everyone and there wasn't like optics and narratives that I had to like obsess with. Because I feel like so much of relationships on the internet get monetized in a way that just like leads to this like incredible like loneliness and isolation, and I'm just not willing to do that to my friends. And so like business strategy wise, would it be better if I like drop Destiny or not? Like there's probably arguments on either side. There's probably some people would be like, actually it wouldn't, because he's such a huge platform.
Only business and strategy wise. Okay, what about morally, Kyla? Like I don't understand. Why would you want to hang out with a guy who like it's gross, it's nasty. That he's the type of person that would do that. Like you'd feel greasy. You feel like you have a layer of grease on top of your skin after you hang out with them.
Incredible like loneliness and isolation, and I'm just not willing to do that to my friends. And so like business strategy wise, would it be better if I like drop Destiny or not? Like there's probably arguments on either side. There's probably some people would be like, actually it wouldn't, because he's such a huge platform. Actually it would, because he's such a brand risk. And I think all that's valid, but I think fundamentally the question that I've been operating with in this whole situation to this point has been, how do I want to conduct myself with my friends? Like how would I treat my friends if there wasn't going to be public scrutiny on top of this? Because I don't know, I guess that's the only way I can sleep myself and like in my mind like have some level of like consistency in how I treat people. Because
I mean, this to me just sounds like somebody saying, "I am the ultimate enabler." All right, you can do whatever you want, and if you say my bad, I'm gonna try to do better. Oh, I'll be right there for you. I mean, she is just an absolute enabler. That's essentially what her job was, to do stupid, annoying errands for Destiny, be the co-host, and be the enabler.
my friendship is going to be determined fundamentally by like who's in trouble now, right? And I don't know if you ever like watch the Amber Heard Johnny Depp stuff, but it's like who's in trouble now shouldn't be the way, if I was close to Amber Heard or to Johnny Depp, shouldn't be the way that I engage with them as like a friend. I should try to figure out like what happened, what went wrong, what do you feel accountable for, and like trying to get as much information as possible, and speaking out when your friends do something wrong.
Okay. All right. Well, with that being said, I think it'd be good to get into the text. Is it about time, you think?
Yeah, you can do that.
All right. So the first one we have here, I'm just going in.
But does that seem like he's really picking up what she's putting down there at all? He's like, okay, all right. So the text then? The text? Because I don't even know how to engage with this nonsense that you're spouting.
Order from the Beckett video. Is this one where looks like Pixie says, did you end up talking to Steven? And you say, not yet, Coleman canceled, so I ended up not coming in, but we'll be there Saturday. You're hinging a lot of my conversation with him. Other than what I mentioned, is there anything you were hoping to be brought up? So is this prior to you, is this in between when you met with her in person and when you were going to talk to him about this stuff?
There we go. Okay, found it. Okay, did you end up blah, blah, blah? No, not yet. Let me see. Other than what is mentioned, is there anything you were hoping to be brought up? Does it continue on? I'm not sure what's leaked.
Yeah, let me see here. So I don't know. It looks like a lot of it's not totally in order. The next one I have is a very long one, where it's her saying, I think I'm going to decide my next course of action of what to do with myself and him based on how that conversation goes. Unless if you decide you don't want to talk to him, that's okay too. It looks like the next one that I have. I'll check the Beckett video one more time to see if there's one in between these two, but I think that these are, at least from the video, these are the ones that I have in order.
I'm just sending to you this order just because there's no like names mentioned in here.
Yeah, so the first one I have is, did you end up talking to Steven? Okay, so
these are all public anyways, I think, right?
Yeah. Okay, so let's see here. So this is your perspective. She says, I think I need to decide my next course of action of what to do with myself and him based on how the conversation goes. Unless if you decide you want to talk to him, that's okay too. Basically, I have my plans and course of action paused, and we'll choose something depending on if he agrees he has to make up and repent for the actions and wants to work with me to find a way to do that, or if he doesn't feel that way. I don't want to talk to him myself because I feel like I tried explaining what I was feeling and he didn't really understand. I also have a little anxious voice in my brain telling me to prepare for the worst because he probably won't care or doesn't care enough to willingly try to make up for his mistakes, and that means I'll have to start thinking of more extreme and nuclear options to deal with. But I'm trying to avoid spiraling down that line of thought because I'm trying to hold out hope. And then she says, and is this directly the next message, this one that you show, where she says, and just to not scare you?
Yes, that's directly next.
Okay. Just not scare you. I'm 100% not going to do anything to myself, no matter what he says during holiday season, because I don't want to traumatize my friends during a time that's supposed to be happy. And even if he responds negatively, it doesn't mean I'll auto myself. I'm trying to contemplate all different courses of action, including going public. And then if I can't take the amount of public humiliation, then myself versus my plan before scheduling a note for after I die. I'm also still looking into lawyers, but I just want to see what he says before deciding to do any nuclear option. And you say, can I share this with Steve? He communicated to me. He knows he fucked up. There's no excuse at all. And he doesn't know what he can do to make it up. I'm trying to bridge between to help him understand what would make you feel that
Well, yeah, he doesn't know what to do to make it up because you can't make it up. You can't unshare the tape.
he understood he was wrong and should never do this again. So, I mean, this is essentially just you guys talking about how to take the next step. Her talking about her suicidality and how this is making her feel.
Yeah, I don't know if there's any confusion. The reason I'm asking if I can share this with Stephen is explicitly because the biggest issue in all this is her consent has been violated. So when I'm saying, can I share this with Stephen, I'm getting her consent to like screen cap it and send it to Stephen.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah. Let's see here. So the next one I have here is, it looks like it is.
I don't know why she thought we needed that explained. You asked, can I share with Stephen? And the whole world understood what you meant by that question.
Is you saying, gotcha, thanks for not sugarcoating anything about where you're at. I think what we talked about as what you needed is help removing the video from online, getting the guy who hacked charged, and a sense that Stephen understands how in the wrong he was and a plan to prevent this from ever happening again. Is that what you feel you need?
So in between that, what's missing, I'm not sure if you don't have it. So after I say, can I share this with Stephen? He communicated to me, he knows he fucked up, blah, 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 the thing you read. Or better, what can I share with him? So I like re-clarify. She says, you can share this and anything you want with him. I feel like when we talked, you really understood where I was coming from and can hopefully explain this better than I can. That is in between. So after she says that she feels like I understand her and I can communicate better, that she appreciates it, I say, gotcha. Thanks for not sugarcoating anything and where you're at.
Do you mind if I see that one that you described?
Yep. I tried to send it, but I'll send it again. Okay, so this is all of them in order, and then I sent the one that I just read. So the last one is going to be, I think it's like, yeah, it's like the second or third one. So this context sounds like it's missing.
So this is the in-between one, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is Pixie says you can share this and anything you want with him. I felt like when we talked, you really understood where I was coming from. They can hopefully explain this better than I can. Okay, so, and just to be clear.
Okay. So she wasn't saying, oh, Erudite, you're so supremely understanding again. She said, and can hopefully explain this better than I can. Okay. I mean, well, she just say you really understand where I'm coming from, but that's, I mean, where where is there to come from the one place? The one place that he completely violated her trust as if he didn't respect her as a full human, right? Aside from that, it's like, okay, great, you got that part. What more is there to understand?
You're here again. You think that Destiny should face some punishment for this? You don't think that this is you weren't trying to mitigate any kind of consequence for him?
No.
Do you think you were trying to mitigate any kind of consequence for yourself by maybe steering her in a direction where it wouldn't be made public?
I don't know. I don't know what consequence there would be for myself.
Well, obviously, it would negatively reflect on you if the guy you're working with is exposed for doing this kind of shit. It kind of, guilt by association type thing makes you look shitty.
Yeah, I suppose.
You've talked about already receiving negative consequences from this. But now you're going to act like, oh, what negative consequences would I even come across? Well, the backlash from people thinking you're a Ghislaine Maxwell.
Yeah, the issue is I guess I'm going to say, no, I actually wasn't thinking about it that much. A lot of people ask me, which is why I spend the time thinking. I'm like wrote in my journal, like the way that I operate with people has to be about relationships and like the things that I value, my principles, not because of like business stuff or I'm going to hate myself. Like I don't want to do all this. Like I don't want a treatment center that helps kids if I have to like buck over my friends and like stop caring about them to like do like that's not the point of this. But obviously that's also my word, so I don't know if I can convince you that. But yeah, it wasn't forefront. It was something that I just basically I had to like pick matters more. Like she gets to do what she would like to do.
Okay, gotcha. All right. Do you? I guess what do you think is a proportional response? I've seen some conversation around how the idea of her getting $1 million is too much, or maybe I don't know, a few $100,000 is too little. What do you think is like adequate restitution for this kind of thing? Just kind of your personal opinion, I guess.
What I told Stephen so this isn't, just to be clear, this is what I did Stephen just between him and I, was specifically, I was like, you should pay for her therapy You need to cover like all of the expenses that are like investigating the leak, and if she has any expenses regarding like clearing her images off the internet, if she has to pay for any like internet scrubbers or anything like that, you need to cover all of those costs. And if she comes to you with other costs that are going to be related to this, you need to cover them as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
The only other thing
I agree. Yeah, he should do all those. But I mean, that's kind of like the bare minimum. He's not paying back for anything. He's just paying for the damages caused by his actions. But she's not, she's not getting compensated for what happened to her at all there. He's just helping pay for some of the damage after the fact.
that I could think of would be like obviously some level of public, like, yes, I fucked up, but obviously that's completely off the table because she doesn't want any public acknowledgement.
Right. Well, it was at that point in time, but now, I mean, it's been publicly acknowledged, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So now do you think it would be good for him to make a public acknowledgement of wrongdoing at some point?
And Pixie never, from everything I've heard, she never agreed for this to come out. Beckett and President Sunday released the videos on their own because they had the screenshots. They did not talk to Pixie or get her okay to do that. From everything that I've heard, they did not.
If legal suits weren't going on, probably the issue is like now I don't even know if he can, because his legal there's no way his legal counsel will sign off on him making a public statement like that. There's no way.
Right.
Which really sucks. Yeah.
Right.
Which sucks for her specifically. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Let me see here. I think there was a specific DM that I wanted to bring up. Let me just go through these real quick.
Oh, I don't know if you saw like one of the texts. I think this has also been included, but when she mentioned specifically the money, the reason that I clarify, I think that's like just a little bit down in the thread. So after I say, gotcha, thanks for not sugarcoating, I list the 3 things that she wants to make sure that I'm understanding what she wants communicated. She outlines the problem with number 3 is because of the removal of the video and the guy getting hacked, Steven has to face consequences proportional to his actions. And so I say, okay, so what you want to, okay, so that is
Pretty sure you had that up on the screen earlier, Tom. What are you doing? Put it back.
what you want. It wasn't clear to me before. This is what you wanted specifically. My understanding was more rehabilitation, but the specific thing you want now, which is for him to lose a certain amount of money. This wasn't like in a judgmental way. This is specifically because when her and I sat at the cafe, she was like talking about the money, but she's like, fuck, I don't even care about the money. She's like, I just want some sort of consequence so that if he like ever thinks about doing this again, he won't, right? I just like want some essentially like level of punishment. And when I was like, do you want money specific, like what specifically are you asking for? If I'm like talking to him like on your behalf, like what are you looking for? At the time, she didn't say specifically money. It was just one thing she thought of, but she wasn't bent on it. This is me clarifying because we had that conversation that specifically what she's wanting now is for him to lose money, because that's different than what I had understood before.
Yeah, we got this DM. Let's see here. Anything about anything? Because I'm happy to communicate what you need broadly as a sense of justice. I'm not sure what I think about the specifics of money and punishment in this case. Not saying you're wrong. It's just the tone has changed from our previous conversation. So this is you just kind of dealing with her, sort of not totally knowing what she wants at the time, which I guess is fair from her.
Well, specifically when I started hearing, so I think at this point we've had a phone call maybe once or twice, and I start hearing the $1 million amount, and I'm not comfortable with that. I don't think I don't think that's going to give her anything that she's looking for. I know that she's never going to.
But I would like to see the text of how seriously $1 million was asked for by Pixie. I mean, maybe it happened. I would like to see that before I believe she was seriously acting like she was potentially going to get $1 million out of Destiny for this.
Going to receive it. I don't think that that's like a good direction for her to go, if I'm being honest. But also, if that's the direction she wants to go, she should. The main thing is I can't be I can't be the one communicating that. I can't mediate that because that's now like one of my friends asking like for $1 million from another one of my friends, and it's not something that I necessarily like feel comfortable with. So I'm saying in this specifically, like I'm not sure if I'm comfortable communicating this part because it's now different than I understood, but I was comfortable communicating everything else to him.
Okay. Yeah. And because she says, I'm not sure about the specifics regarding money or punishment. I believe in rehabilitation, but part of rehabilitation is penance.
Yeah, so before, supposedly she's perfectly, ultimately understood Pixie this whole time and knew she didn't want any money out of this. But now money came up, and it's the thing where Erudite's like, oh, I gotta wipe my hands of this now. There's nothing that can be, or I'm not comfortable with this. It's just very bizarre to me. The lines this woman draws are so weird.
The person understands what they did is wrong, takes corrective course of actions and actions to help pay penance to the victims. So I mean, and then I think the following one here is she says, I just want to know he'll never do this again. And this is like the biggest mistake of his life, basically.
Yeah. I'm sorry for using you as an intermediary. I can send these messages and conversation to him myself too. I just feel like if he tells me too directly, it would be emotionally harder to handle than if I heard it from you. But I totally understand if that's not something you're comfortable with, and I'm sorry to put you in an uncomfortable position. He's also alluded to financial compensation, but I don't think he really understood the concept of proportionality of the action, since he asked if there were any bills that he could pay.
Let's see here. So we've got this message you sent.
Can I pay any bills? Oh, you know what would make you feel better, Pixie? If you didn't have to pay the electric this month. All right, I got you.
Let's see here. It looks like her talking about the idea of maybe taking a criminal, but that she didn't want to do that because the justice system is horrible. She says, starts with willing to figure out what this means to both of us / in a manner that makes sense to both of us. I don't want to cause unnecessary harm or suffering to Stephen. I want to know he'll never do this again. I think it would be the most effective method of doing so, or jail, but I don't want him to go through criminal court because one, our justice system is horrible, getting people to change their behavior. And I feel like it'd be overkill, but I totally understand if you don't want to talk to Stephen about this. I'm just putting it off because the answer is either one, yes, I agree with this course of action. Let's talk about what this would look like in a way that makes sense for both of us, or two, no, I don't agree. I don't want to do that, which then it becomes an, okay, now I have to go to court and figure this out. So we've got that. Yeah, I think that's the majority of the stuff from you specifically to go over. So the reason why I said fuck Erudite and fuck Destiny is essentially, I guess in my mind, this is a little too far for me to want to be, I don't know, buddies with someone, seeing that they sent a chick's nudes around. I mean, you know, maybe if he was like 16 years old and it was in high school, I would be like, okay, well, I don't know, 16-year-olds are fucking retarded, but I don't know, he just seems a little bit too old to be doing this, in my opinion. It seems to be an extremely precarious situation he's constantly getting himself into with his dick, with these random women. It just seems like very bad. And I guess I do see it as very, you know, I understand you're trying to help Pixie out, but at the same time, like, I don't think he's someone to be taken very seriously. Or honestly, you by extension for, you know, trying to, I don't know, like sticking by him throughout all this, and like, you know, I don't know. I guess it just leaves a very, very bad taste in my mouth. I guess it's something that's hard to communicate. It's a little bit of an emotional thing, but I think that's how a lot of people are feeling. It's just like,
I think it's as simple as, what would make you stop being friends with a person if this is not enough? It seems like you would just allow anything. You're a complete, total enabler. I don't know how else to possibly explain you sticking around here. And I get maybe the whole you just moved and you need money thing, that's an incentive. Well, you shouldn't have taken the whole last year off of streaming. You could have been making some money there. But also, yeah, sometimes you take the hit, so you're not a business partner with an absolute creep who, like, they've shown they don't have any respect for other people or the privacy. Like, he does not see other people as full people the same as him, if he's willing to just share these videos willy-nilly like this. Like, he does not see other people as equals to do that.
it's a very fucked up situation. It's very fucked up.
Yeah. I think that's fair. And I think if people feel like they can't associate with him anymore, I genuinely understand that. Like, that's not something I would criticize others for. And I think there are others that are.
Yeah, of course you understand that. That's the understandable position, Erudite. Justify your opinion. Right? That's the problem. I don't need you to tell me I'm being reasonable. I know. All right? My mind is blown by how unreasonable you are. Explain that.
In your position, I just understand. That's just fundamentally like not where I'm at. I'm not willing to for this specific thing, and it's also something like Pixie and I have talked about, like at some level of length. I don't know if it's meaningful, but like one thing she hasn't been asking for in part is to like cut people off. I think if she asked, I'd have to think about it. I don't know what I think. I have literally no idea. But I don't know. I guess the main thing is, like, I think it's fair for you to say that you disagree with my choice to side with Stephen. I think what's not fair to say, which is like spreading everywhere, is that I'm like going out of my way to like gaslight a girl, manipulate her, and to convince her to not go public and like to do Steven's dirty work. When it's like, that's such a like, it's such an unfair representation of me. Like I've been calling and checking in with her like every 2 days.
People may be mischaracterizing you in some ways, but at the end of the day, you are standing by just a freak who doesn't have respect for his fellow humans. Th- That's enough. That's enough for people like, okay, you're super weird. You're Ghislaine Maxwell of streaming. Like, I, it's just, again, I feel so stupid saying this, but arguing against her opinion because it's so obvious. But she's sitting here, and well, I can see how you might arrive at the opinion that what Destiny I are doing is bad. Yeah, yeah, no, of course you can. 99% of people see it that way, of course.
We talk on the phone pretty often.
It's like this annoying therapist talk. Or customer service too. Yes, I understand where you. Okay, I don't care. I don't care if you understand. I know I'm being clear and understandable. I need you. I need you to justify what you're saying. Your opinion on this.
Often, like my whole orientation in all of this is helping her. And I guess I fundamentally believe like I think
Not helping her get money. That's a line that you won't cross.
somebody like Destiny, who gets in a lot of trouble with his dick and is interpersonally, I think, really retarded, is probably going to be better off with people who care about him and will like confront him on it, but also not just like drop him. But I think if other people want to drop him, like I wouldn't say that you're a bad person for doing that. It's just not something I'm willing to do yet. And like maybe I'll be wrong. Maybe I'll be by my words, but I'm not doing it out of this like willy-nilly, just like 2 week. I'm doing this out of like a decently principled stance, which is that typically like I don't give up on people. I think the argument like he's just too old. I'm like,
You need to start giving up on people at some point because otherwise you're just an enabler.
that's fair. It's just tough because I've had so many adult clients that it's like, I don't know, not a lot of 45-year-olds doing a lot of stupid shit. Because like, I don't know, trauma and like
Yep, and that's great that you have your job where you help those people, right? They should be able to have access to resources to help them. But in your interpersonal life, you should not be justifying and enabling people acting like that, right? If they're acting like that, you should be signing Steven up for this program where you help these bottom of the society people who are really struggling.
problems associated with being a fucked up person don't just like go away because you're older. They just like come out in different ways.
Why do you care about this guy so much when he doesn't seem to care about, I mean, anyone else, at least enough to not share their news around?
I guess because I see actually tons of markers of him caring about people and also being negligent and bad when it comes to sexual relations.
What markers? I want to hear the markers of him being a good person.
I see tons.
So I'm pretty sure. Doesn't he say on his stream all the time how he's not a good person? I swear he says that he's not like a sympathetic person and all that sort of stuff. I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure. But no, Kyle disagrees. He's actually just a sweet little bunny.
Tons of evidence of him caring about people.
Okay. All right. Well, I think that answers most of my questions.
I gotta see that. Tom was not buying that.
Yes, I guess because I see actually tons of markers of him caring about people and also being negligent and bad when it comes to sexual relations. I see tons of evidence of him caring about people.
Okay. All right. Well, I think that answers most of my questions. Is there anything else you wanted to say before I end off the recording?
I guess, do you feel like it is fair in this situation? I guess, what do I do about this? The entire time I've been reaching out to my friend. After the conversation I had with her the first time, she reconnected with the friend she had cut off and was willing to go and see her friends and start calling them more often, and basically made a commitment to like being safe. That's where we made the safety commitment as well. I'm doing my best to help my friend because I think that she was wronged here and she's done nothing wrong here. And I also confronted the friend that I think did a wrong thing. But I also am trying to like push and encourage him to change. I've disagreed with him and fought with him on a couple of things about being like, you should do this. You need to be doing this. I don't understand a world where like these actions lead to people going like, you're a bad human being, and
I think the way
you're
people
like,
see it is like you're trying to mitigate the situation with Pixie because you are financially interested in continuing your relationship with Destiny for a profit, basically. I think that's the way that a lot of people see it.
if
Because
that's the
obviously you
case, then
guys have a
why?
business.
Yeah, but if that's the case, why did I say to Fairy Queen she could leave the comment up? I just asked her to remove the identifying part about Pixie. Like none of
Plausible deniability, all right? I already explained it.
my actions have been about covering for Destiny or preventing people from talking about it broadly. It's been from like all it's been about is addressing people talking about Pixie specifically. Like I've never in any world not wanted people to talk negatively broadly about even being an idiot and like negligent when it comes to like things to people's trusts in sexual dynamics. Like I've never been opposed.
Being an idiot and negligent. How do you not get it? That's how you're characterizing what Destiny did. That's absurdly soft language to be using for what he did.
To any being concerned about that. I don't.
Like, how do you not get it? How are you going to describe what Destiny did as? I guess I'll go back. But you're going to describe what he does so softly, and then be like, I don't understand why people are upset with me, because you're constantly downplaying what the guy did. And you're like trying to help him deal with the ramifications and be an intermediary to see if you can resolve the situations without money being involved.
Talking about it broadly. It's been from like all it's been about is addressing people talking about Pixie specifically. Like I've never in any world not wanted people to talk negatively broadly about even being an idiot and like negligent when it comes to like things to people's trusts in sexual dynamics. Like I've never been opposed to any being concerned about that. I don't ban
Being an idiot and negligent to dynamics. Okay.
general comments and talks about it. I explicitly with Fairy Queen asked her to not talk about things that could narrow the scope of who it was, particularly because at that time, most people didn't quite know who it was. I didn't look at the leaks, but when I would like listen to like Reservoir or other people, I kept hearing like, I'm not really sure who it is. I'm not really sure who it is. Even like shout out to like Queenman, even though we kind of hate each other, he had like the good grace when he was covering this to like be pretty mindful of not making it clear who were in the leaks. Like that's been my behavior the entire time. Like nothing really
And
differs
that's
away from that.
fair. I mean, that's fair. That's why, I obviously I don't know if you know this. I had heard about this stuff for a few weeks. I didn't really have any direct confirmation until a couple of days ago, but I had heard about this stuff going on, but I wasn't going to cover it. Firstly, because it was just an allegation at the time. There was no evidence of anything. But secondly, I was under the impression that Pixie didn't want it to get out. And then all of a sudden, I'm in the middle of streaming, and I see President Sunday and Cope and Teeth have dropped videos identifying Pixie. At which point I was like, okay, well, it's fucking out now, I guess. But and that's when she made her statement, which is interesting. Do you know why? I guess one question would be, and Beckett had an original statement, it seems like, from Pixie, where she implicated kind of Dan Saltman and said that he told her not to make it public. Do you know why that was in the original one, or maybe why it was removed in the final?
I have no idea. I definitely don't talk to Dan about, like, I just have a very strict business relationship with Dan.
Okay, gotcha. But
Yeah.
you didn't talk to Pixie about maybe what she may have talked to Dan about?
I didn't actually know that was in there. I haven't like gone through all the videos today. I've been traveling, as you said, and I've mostly been like trying, like I spent the whole morning trying to be like, is she safe? She said, because she told me originally that if she went public or if she had to go public, she was gonna kill herself. So I like spent most of the morning trying to be like, how if she potentially doesn't feel like, I didn't know if she had leaked the stuff about me. So I was like, I don't know if she feels comfortable with me, but somebody needs to check on her to like make sure that she's safe, because like Sunday painted her pretty terribly, which I think, well, she confirmed to me today, made her make the public post today to try to like clear her name a little bit. And
Sunday is a total scumbag who just does not care. I think it was Queeman saying he's a means to an end guy. So he wants to screw over Destiny, and he saw an avenue to do that. He is not really concerned that Pixie wanted to keep this quiet or private because he can hurt Destiny doing this. So that's what he did.
And this is like the exact thing that she said, like, if this happens, like, I am killing myself. So I spent most of the morning, to be honest, like trying to figure out if there was any mutuals that were like willing to basically just like check on her and make that she's safe, and like trying and like going back and forth with Nick about being like, should I reach out to her? Like, I'm not really sure. Like, I'm really worried about her. I don't really want to make a public statement until I've talked to her and like seen where she's at. And so I spent most of the morning doing that. There luckily was a mutual friend that was able to connect with her and communicated, basically being like, hey, just so you know, like she didn't actually leak your stuff. She's like feeling really bad. Probably would love to hear from you, which is why I connected with her later. So I haven't spent most of the day like going through all the content on it. I asked Nick to do that. I've spent most of the day like trying to figure out where she's at, what's going on, and then something about like this cherry stuff dropped, and I've been trying to figure out like what's going on there, because it would probably change. It could change like how I feel about business going forward, depending on like what's occurred.
I mean, I would be surprised if that actually puts you over the edge, but yeah, it should. That one alone should be like, oh, I don't want to do business with this guy. I think I said what happened with Cherry earlier, but somebody else heard a recording that sounded like her, and they sent it to her. And it turns out Destiny was probably secretly recording the audio with his phone in his pocket while they engaged amorously, and then that got leaked. Yeah, he's done plenty of things that should make you reassess your business relationship going forward.
Cherry. I actually haven't seen this Cherry thing now. Do you know what her Twitter ad is? I assume that's where she posted it. Cherry. It's like the CHAERY Cherry or something, right?
Yes.
She said, these adults who are financially tied business partners having the audacity to involve themselves should not be allowed to pass judgment or question the behavior of others unreciprocated. You are not naive. You're not autistic. And she's showing a DM from Straighterade, which says, nice. Kyla's being snaky about this. Pixie contacted her and was kind of trying to use her as a liaison. I told her Kyla can't be trusted to help with that. Dan contacted Pixie a couple of weeks ago as well. According to what she told me, he basically said, ask Steven for a reasonable amount of money and he'll probably pay it, and wanted to convince her and wanted her to convince him to not take legal actions against KF, which she's considering. That's what Straighterade said, implying Kiwi Farms there.
Oh, that's what he means? Okay, I thought it kind of sounded like they were saying Dan was trying to pressure Pixie not to pursue a lawsuit or whatever, but he was saying that she should try to get Destiny to not sue Kiwi Farms. Which I would love to know if Destiny was considering suing Kiwi Farms, or maybe he is, how seriously, if so, because I mean that's like a total lolcow move to do that.
And then includes some other clips and different screenshots as well in this thread. Do you have any comment on that Straighterade DM?
It really sucks. Like I thought I was friends with Straighterade, so super sucks to know that she's just like thinking I've been sneaky the whole time. I don't know. I don't know.
Oh, I'm pretty sure we think Strader is the one that leaked the messages to Sunday and stuff. But what did you think her motivation for doing that was, right? If she thought everybody was handling this perfectly, I don't think she would have reason to go to Sunday and make noise of this. Like, I would think if if I was Kyla and I found out Straighterade went to Sunday so that he could publish these messages, like, oh, must she must think something sinister is going on here, right? She's not just gonna, if you think she's your friend, she's not just gonna do that to you, right?
It's mostly really sad. It's really sad that Straighterade sent these DMs like against Pixie's consent to like probably my biggest internet harasser.
Was he considering taking legal action against Kiwi Farms? That's kind of being implied here.
Pixie?
Well, the DM from Straighterade says, sorry, let me just send you a screenshot of it. This is what Cherry has.
I haven't seen this newest Cherry post yet.
Okay, it says, according to what she told me, he basically said, ask Steven for a reasonable amount of money and he'd probably pay it, and wanted her to convince him to not take legal actions against KF, which he's considering. So this is implying Steven's considering taking legal action against Kiwi Farms. Can you talk about that at all or no?
I haven't heard her mention any legal action about Kiwi Farms. I really only talked to Pixie and Steven.
I think this is implying it says wanted her to convince him not to take legal action. So I think the implication is he wanted to take legal action against Kiwi Farms.
Steven did?
Yeah, that's what this DM would be implying.
I'm not really sure. To be honest, when all this stuff drops, Steven and I also have a bit of a line. Like, I'm not talking to him about like a lot of the legal stuff, so I'm not sure who he's suing specifically. I'm not really sure.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, I don't think there's anything new regarding you.
Yeah.
From these
I guess, can I
from
ask,
this thread. Yeah.
do you still think that I was trying to make her be quiet despite like me explicitly not shutting down conversation? I can even look for DMs. I think I say to Pixie multiple times in other DMs, like explicitly, like whatever you like whatever you would like to do. If you'd like to go public, you can go public. Like,
Not if you want money.
I don't know. It's just like,
I mean,
it's just frustrating to hear this.
I can't really read your mind. So based on the DMs, it doesn't seem that you were trying to get her to not go public or go public. But I mean, obviously because
Yeah, I don't necessarily think that she is trying to keep it quiet or stop Pixie from going public with this. I just think she's completely and totally enabling Destiny, being a degenerate freak with zero regard for other people as humans.
of your
I wasn't
business
weighing in.
relationship. Sorry, what'd you say?
Like when you have somebody who's going,
And now that's not to say that I don't think she would try to stop people from making noise about this or anything like that. Right? I'm very much open to Erudite doing that, but from what I've seen, I don't necessarily think that's what's going on.
going through trauma, and this is like what I also told her, like with you're going through this, like you get to steer the ship. Like one of the biggest things of betrayal is that somebody took away consent from you. So you get to steer the ship. If you want to stay private, we stay, like I take your leave on that. If you want to go public, I'm going to follow up with you and say like, what do you feel comfortable with me saying? What do you want me to talk about? She gets to steer the ship. Like I don't know, it's just frustrating because I'm like, I guess like you can ask Pixie, but like I can even look for DMs. It's like the opposite is true. I not only like wasn't pressuring her to be quiet, I was explicitly not pressuring her to do anything except for whatever she would like to do.
Based on all the messages I've seen, it doesn't seem like you were pressuring her to stay quiet. Yes. Correct. Okay. Yes, I agree with that.
So is that why you wanted to come on here, Erudite? Is that why you wanted to take even a little bit more privacy away from Pixie? Just a couple more shavings off of her privacy so that you could come on here and ask Tom if he thought you were maliciously trying to suppress her. Really, it seems like that's all that this was.
Yeah, this cherry thread seems to be mostly just stuff that everybody's already seen, but
and so I guess when you say like you can't take me seriously, I guess I'm just like I don't know how to take that. Like, do you basically think that like everyone should disavow Destiny? Like, should he be basically fully canceled? Do you think like even though I've done like my entire orientation with him behind the scenes has been like I can give you receipts of this as well from like way back in the day where I was like messaging him like telling him he was wrong.
I don't know. I guess it's just like to me it's like how do you take someone seriously as a political commentator when like he's unconsensually sending people's nudes around? I guess I find it.
How do you take them seriously in general? It's like, okay, you're a complete weirdo. That's like a gutter person activities. Like just nobody needs a person who does that in their life. That's not going to add anything, unless I guess you're Erudite and you can get some extra subscribers on your YouTube channel from it, and a paycheck.
Hard to take someone seriously in that position.
I think that's fair, right? But this is like, can you trust his political content going forward? Which is valid. I think that's probably an important business question for us to like answer. But I don't know like why that implicates my character.
Well, I mean, we work with him. Like he is the reason why you exist. He's the whole reason for your, business partner.
He's the reason you exist. No dig.
We work with him. Like he is the reason why you exist. He's the whole reason for your, business partnership, for like Bridges podcast, like all of that shit is like because of him, right? Like,
I agree.
You're an extension of the Destiny community. The guy running the community is messaging e-girls from his community nudes of other girls from his community that he's like farming, which actually brings me to another thing that I guess I wanted to talk about, which is something I was just looking into. So I saw this post. This is from a year ago on the Destiny subreddit. This is from February 21st, 2024.
Well, this is crazy. I hadn't heard anything about this up until Tom bringing this up, but this is potentially a pretty sinister theory that they put forward.
It says, I'll send you the post right here. It says, Destiny addressing the canvassing complaints just to address them. It says there's a conversation between Jacob, Lonerbox, Not So Erudite, and Destiny on the complaints raised by some women in the canvassing event about being constantly hit on by the guys taking part in it, not being able to just exist without being approached by them, which can cause them to potentially not participate in future events. Destiny introduced very early on in the conversation the idea that any gender-centric space will inherently push away the other gender, regardless of what's done to make it accessible. He says if it starts with 1 female and 9 males, it should never go past that 1%. Yeah, the conversation continued, bouncing the idea of Bumble law where guys would be prohibited from asking women out unless they ask them first, and consider telling participants to keep it professional, like in a work setting. Both of them were shut down. Essentially, I guess what I'm kind of getting at here is it seems like this is an old thread regarding sexual harassment complaints, I guess, or weird conversation complaints.
I suppose, just in case you don't know, these canvassing events recently, Destiny would set up events where a bunch of people come together in a city and they go and door knock and ask people, hey, do you want to know about the Democrat person? You want to vote for them and do that sort of thing. So a bunch of Destiny fans all came together in one place a couple times to do these canvassing events. And I mean, I'd imagine that the ratio is pretty guy to girl heavy. And the Destiny shoots down Bumble law and just saying keep it professional like in a work setting. He shuts both of those down. No, I'm not down with those. Because, maybe he wants to be able to break those rules.
With women.
Or I guess he wouldn't be breaking them if they're not making the rules. But he doesn't want to make those rules because then he'd be breaking them.
The DGG canvassing event. In the leaks, there are 2 videos involving Pixie. There's one that's solo, and a threesome with another orbiter, which is straight raid. People are claiming, basically, based on the evidence, that at least one of those videos occurred during a canvassing event. The link in this Reddit post, right here, if you click it, it leads to a stream where you and Destiny are talking about the harassment claims, and it seems like Destiny didn't want to make overt rules about flirting with co-canvassers. And people are kind of speculating that the reason why this is happening is because he'd no longer be able to use canvassing events as vehicles to have sex with fans and orbiters. This, to me, is tying into this greater idea of like fucking fans is one thing, but like he's fucking fans and then unconsensually sending videos of fans to other fans and is at the canvassing events, which is part of his political thing. So it's like it's all kind of wrapped up.
So he's potentially one of the reasons, or maybe the reason he started these canvassing events was so that he could get a bunch of fans who would be more open to engaging amorously with him, and maybe he could get some courtings consensually or non-consensually. Doesn't really matter to him either way. And then he can share those consensually or non-consensually and use them to kind of ingratiate himself with these other people. Like, oh, see, look, I'm trustworthy. Look at all these other women that trust me. Or I don't know exactly what his spin with these is, why he's sharing them, like what the benefit of it is. All right, I don't participate in those sorts of activities, so I don't know the ins and outs. But yeah, that's not hard for me to believe, knowing all of the stuff that we know now, that he would set up these canvassing events as a guise to hook up with a bunch of fans all at once and get tapes of them that he can distribute as he sees fit.
So I guess I'm just like, once again, this like leads into like my whole thing about like taking it seriously, right? It's like, what is going on here? What's going on with Pixie? Like, it's not like you can just divorce like these two ideas. Like, this is the political commentary. This is what is going on here. Like, this is all tied up in his content, in his canvassing events.
Yeah, I mean, I guess to go back to like your initial statement, just like I'm an extension of the community. I guess I don't like I have a podcast with him. I'm not an extension of Steven. I disagree with him regularly. When we have interpersonal disagreements, I handle it privately. I have no idea if he was hooked.
It would help you maybe if you listed some more disagreements. It would make it a little bit more believable that you're not just a complete enabler. But the only thing you could list is that you thought his jokes about QT Cinderella were too mean or whatever. It's just like, okay, sure, maybe it was. I don't doubt that he was being overly mean about it, but I just don't really care, right? She was making way too big of a deal of what happened. So it's understandable to me that people would make fun of it, right? Like if you upload a video of you breaking down crying, saying this is what pain looks like, essentially because somebody photoshopped your face onto a video of somebody doing prawn. That's too much, and people are gonna make fun of you. Like, especially because she's a streamer. I don't know how you don't see that coming. Right? And you're so unable to handle it, right? Like, I'm not saying any of it's okay, but it's her reaction was absurd, and people are gonna make fun of that. That was the one thing that she listed. She confronted him. Well, actually, she just said something related to QT Cinderella. I'm assuming all of that part, but I'm pretty confident that's what she's talking about. So yeah, you're just a total enabler. That was the one thing you can say that you disagreed with him on. You have no credibility. You don't get to just say you disagree with him all the time, and then every single time I see or hear you, you're just agreeing with him, even when he non-consensually shares tapes. It's like a minor, slight disagreement from you. That's the best we can get.
Hooking up with, in fact, if they're talking about Ohio, I'm pretty dubious. I'm pretty sure I was around because those two were working like with me on that event. I'm pretty dubious that it was taken. I don't know for sure. I wasn't there, obviously. I have no idea, and I don't know. I didn't even know that this leak existed. Like I said, I haven't looked at them. I genuinely would be very suspect that it was taken at the canvassing event, just because of like how often I was with both of them, and then all three of them, like in like public spaces. Pixie and Aaron.
Hey, but did you guys sleep in the same room? Otherwise, it seems pretty obvious how that might happen, right? I don't know anything about this footage, what sort of environment that Pixie was in these videos, but I would think it could just be in a hotel room at night, no?
Had like each had their own rooms. Like Aaron was sharing a room with multiple people. Like there was
Okay. I paused early. She says everybody was sharing a room here. But maybe yeah, couldn't he just have another secret hotel room of his own that nobody knows about? Right? There's workarounds. But I did pause Andy there pretty bad.
very suspect that it was taken at the canvassing event, just because of like how often I was with both of them, and then all three of them, like in like public spaces. Pixie and Aaron had like each had their own rooms. Like Aaron was sharing a room with multiple people. Like it was a full streamer house, and the one night that I remember, like Steven like hanging out like with just a few creators alone, he was hanging out with Jasmine Jafar and Irrelevant. Like they were just like talking. I think they just went back to his thing to talk, and I think maybe Lauren De Laguna went as well.
Okay.
So if it happened maybe the day after, I'm not really sure. But I'm pretty sure I would be very surprised. Like I don't know when they found time. If I'm being honest, they were working like all day. So
Okay. So you don't think it was happening at the canvassing events?
I don't know. I'm very dubious that it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
And even here, she's being kind of defensive of him, where she's trying to strike down this theory. Oh no, the canvassing, they weren't for that. There's no way. I saw everything there. He wouldn't have had time to sneak away and do that. I don't buy that. All right. Even though we barely have anything even approximating evidence with this canvassing thing, I don't know. For whatever reason, it just seems very believable. It makes so much sense with everything else that we know that would be, at the very least, an ulterior motive, if not the true reason Destiny decided he wanted to do those canvassing events. Because he put a lot of money into those, is my understanding, and just pretty much just a loss. It's not like you get a return on investment for canvassing if you're just some person like that. Like if you're trying to get your guy elected or whatever, that's the payoff. So, I mean, he's got to get something out of it. He's got to get his money's worth somehow. I don't know. It just seems so believable now.
Well, that was the last specific thing I wanted to talk about. To conclude, my opinion, yes, I don't think that you were trying to keep Pixie silent, based on what I've seen. Yeah, maybe, I don't know, people will come out with some other thing that I haven't seen that will show me that, but that does not seem to be the case to me. So if that's what your goal was with convincing me personally, and probably a lot of the audience by extension, I think you did succeed in that. Obviously beyond that point, people will probably criticize you for associating with Destiny at all, but yeah, I think that's about all there is to that. Is there anything else you want to say before I end the recording?
No, I guess mostly I just like, I appreciate you giving me the time to listen to me. I would appreciate if people like, I don't know, it feels very icky to always be viewed as just like this like necessary extension of Steven. I don't like this idea that if I'm like
Yeah, well, stop enabling him constantly and standing by him no matter what he does. All right, otherwise you're gonna seem like an extension of him. Like if the dude is doing things that drives every single other person away from him except for you, oh, they're gonna think you're an extension of him.
To always be viewed as just like this like necessary extension of Steven. I don't like this idea that if I'm like friends with somebody,
So look, is that Tom doing drugs on stream here? A Zen probably altering his mind on stream
viewed as just
because he can't get through the day sober. Yes, that appears to be a Zyn or some similar pouch product.
like this like necessary extension of Steven. I don't like this idea that if I'm like friends with somebody, that means I'm like agreeing with all of his actions and behaviors. I think there are some things that are like non-negotiable, but I like acting like these things are like objectively agreed upon, and that everyone just knows what these are. I think is pretty unfair. I think the way that people have like responded to Pixie, like smearing her and trying to paint her as an extortionist, has been really gross.
Yeah.
I think,
Shout out President Sunday.
Yeah, I was just gonna say it was very nice to frame it like she's just trying to get money out of this, right? Like, and it's not saying that it's impossible that that's what she wants to do, but nothing that Sunday presented was enough to make me think that that was what was going on, or even anything close to it. But he didn't seem to mind implying that a little bit.
yeah. I think like first and foremost, the most important thing, like even when you're making this, is like to just be mindful. If there's anything that I say that you're like, don't know if that will like cast Pixie in a bad light, like I prefer it's excluded. And I guess, I don't know, the disproportionate level of like hatred and vitriol that I feel like I've been getting for staying silent when the victim asked me to, telling my friend that he was wrong, and trying to mitigate a solution for the friends, and then
No, you're not getting backlash because you stayed quiet when Pixie wanted people to stay quiet. Right? I totally understand anybody not wanting to come out about any of this before it became popular knowledge. Right? If Pixie wanted to stay quiet and you stay quiet, that's totally fair. Right? I can get that. That's not why people are looking at you sideways, Erudite. It's so obvious. It's you are standing by a guy that people do not understand why you would possibly stand by him. So much so that I can't really conceive of something that Destiny would do that wouldn't be deserving of prison time, that where you would be like, okay, that's too much. I'm gonna disassociate with him, right? Like unless he forcibly, physically disassociates himself by sending himself to prison, what could he do? Where you're like, it's too much. I'm gonna part ways. That's why people are upset with you.
stepping back when that solution wasn't working and they were going to like legal things. I just don't know what else people are expecting from me, especially as like most people who believe in like rehabilitative justice, I suppose. Like I don't know. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. But I guess it is what it is. I'm doing my best to try to live by my principles.
Okay. All right. Thanks. Well, on the recording. Thank you for
And apparently your ultimate principle is enable your friends.
coming on the show.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Okay, that's it. Yeah. I mean, pretty insane to me that Erudite is just hanging tight on the Destiny ship. Just continue sailing on there. And maybe it is just that she wants to be able to monkey branch and she's just saying all this sort of stuff to temporarily appease him, but it's not the impression I get. To me, this came across as a total enabler the whole way, just not willing to seriously confront her friend for obviously reprehensible, to me, what should just be instant write-off behavior. Really, that is the behavior of gutter people. Should just be sharing other people's intimate footage like that willy-nilly and just having no regard for their privacy or the embarrassment that they're going to feel, the shame that they're going to feel. I just it's insane. It's insane to me that I'm actually sitting here arguing this because Erudite requires it. She's standing by him. She needs people to make this argument for her, apparently. I don't know. But that's great. I really hope that she sinks with the ship now, because this was just a perfect opportunity to get off, to go your own way, but somehow it's not. So, all right, you go down with the ship, and then once it's underwater, you can jump out with the rats.